Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out if you're new. Welcome back to What I Watch, Read, and Played, where, as the title implies, this is what I watched, read, and played this month. I'll give you some recommendations, maybe tell you what to avoid, and just some of my overall thoughts on the things I checked out this month, to see if you might be interested. So let's get right on into it with the movies that I watched this month. And what an interesting batch of movies we have so far. So right off at the start here, I have Deadpool 2. This is because I needed to rewatch it for a video that I'm still working on. And so I did it for some research for a video. And this is the sequel to the Deadpool movie. You all know what Deadpool 2 is at this point. The movie's going on, 6, 7 years old. And we're finally getting Deadpool 3 this coming month. And so this is the story about Wade as he has to protect this young boy named Russell from Cable, the time traveler. You know, Cable's come back because this kid, is a villain in the future. It's the age-old time-traveling story of, fate, destiny, things like that. And so, Deadpool has to save this kid and, redeem him so that he doesn't grow to be a villain in the future. It's fun, it's cute, but I think this is my last time watching Deadpool 2 for quite some time. Maybe it's because I just watched it last month when they dropped the trailer. But yeah, I've seen this movie enough for now. The humor does. I feel like the jokes aren't as funny as the first movie, and it does. I also watched the super duper extended cut, which is 30 minutes long. The movie's 2.5 hours long in that version. And it's just way too long in that version. But I was doing it for research, so that's the version I put on to make sure I got all of the jokes and everything. And yeah, I don't think I'll be watching that extended version for quite some time, if the movie again for a while. But definitely go check that out. They're both, I believe, just the theatrical version is on Disney Plus. So there you go. And then for the first time ever, I watched Bad Boys 1, 2, and For Life. These star Martin Lawrence and Will Smith as two detectives in Miami who always investigate, drug cartel or issues like that. The first movie follows them, basically protecting this woman who's a witness to a drug crime and a murder. And I thought it was funny enough. It got some laughs. I'd revisit it at some point. It does start to maybe overstay its welcome, because in that movie, while they're doing the witness protection plot, they also have Martin Lawrence is pretending to be Will Smith, because the witness says, I'll only talk to Mike Lowry, which is Will Smith's character, and so Martin Lawrence is pretending to be Will Smith, and so that gets a little old. But it's much better than Bad Boys 2. Oh my god. I think Bad Boys 2 is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. To be frank, this one's 2.5 hours long. It is so long. And it's a Michael Bay film, and I think it's the most racist Michael Bay film. Maybe, I don't know, them Transformers movies give them a run for their money, but this movie stars, it's the two returning, and this time they're going after a new drug lord, and it has all the racial stereotypes you could ever need for Haitians and Cubans and Hispanic people, black people. Again, any stereotype or racist character you can think of is in this movie somewhere. And so, yeah, Bad Boys 2, very bad. I will never probably be rewatching Bad Boys 2. Meanwhile, there's Bad Boys for Life. This is the third film. This came out in 2020, right before the pandemic. And I never got around to seeing it because I had never seen the first two. I've watched these for the first time in anticipation for the fourth one. And as everybody's pointed out, Bad Boys for Life should have been titled something else because you should have said For Life for the fourth one. But this one follows Will Smith and Martin Lawrence as they are being hunted by an enemy from their past. I won't spoil who that enemy is, but it's essentially them trying to solve why this person's after them we, the audience, kind of know why, but Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's characters don't know. And I thought this one was fun. These are like action comedy movies, and I thought this one was pretty funny. It might be my favorite one of them. And then I went and saw Bad Boys Ride or Die right afterwards. This is the fourth one, which came out just this past month. In this one, following police corruption and things like that, the former captain is framed for a crime he did not commit, and in the Bad Boys' attempt to clear his name, end up, framed as accomplices as well, and find themselves on the wrong side of the law. And so this one, oh, I forgot to mention, this one and For Life are directed by the same directing duo. They are the duo who was going to be doing the Batgirl movie from WB before WB canned it. And after seeing these two movies, you can't convince me that Batgirl was bad. Like, maybe the script wasn't the strongest, but it would have at least looked cool. Because there are some drone shots in both of these movies, but, like, Ride or Die, I think, is the better. Like, they really play around with drones and crazy camera rigs. Like, I'm sure you've all seen it on Will Smith's Instagram where he posted, like, the gun POV shot, and they've got Will Smith literally, like, moving the camera rig in front of him so that the camera's right in his face. And it's really cool. A lot of fun camera work and action in this fourth one. Like, I think, like I said, I hate Bad Boys 2. I will probably never rewatch that movie, but these were fun. I might revisit 1, 3, and 4 at some point down the line. And I need to see Batgirl now, because I just know they would have done some crazy stuff. And this directing duo, I'm sorry I don't remember their name off the top of my head. I'll put it here on the screen. But give them Spider-Man. I think they could do some crazy things with web swinging. Next up, I watched Argylle on Apple TV+. This is the movie starring Bryce Dallas Howard, where she is an author who writes spy novels, and then, what she writes comes true. And so it's the rivaling spy organizations fighting for her because, she's going to write the next chapter. She has all the answers. And it's a big, old, messy mystery. So this is directed by Matthew Vaughn, who did the 2 Kingsman movies. And honestly, this is just a crazy movie. It's harmless. It's not terrible. It's watchable. I found it fun. Would I ever go see it again? Probably not. They just plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. And it's okay, at some point, it's not a twist. It doesn't even matter. Because, we're told, oh, she went on Tuesday. But then it's revealed that Tuesday was actually a code name for Friday. But then Friday wasn't actually this Friday. It was last Friday. And by last Friday, we mean the last Friday in August. And it's oh my God, it's too much. It's way too long. That's the theme of this month, is way too long movies. Because Argylle is 2.5 hours. Honestly, I would actually probably really like the movie if you trimmed off an hour of it. If it were 90 minutes. The third act is probably one of the worst third acts I've ever seen. And with the twist and the action scenes that we keep doing. It's they remembered, oh yeah, we're supposed to be a spy movie. And so, action scene, action scene, action scene. And it's okay, you can only do so many fights. Yes, we all like action. But sitting through 45 minutes of an ice skating fight, a roller rink fight, a boxing match, a gun fu fight, it's too much. You can't keep doing it. It just gets boring. And so Argylle totally falls apart at the end. The first 45 minutes of it, hour or so, is good. I actually enjoyed it and thought it was a fun, cute little comedy movie. And then it remembers it's supposed to be an action movie. Yeah. So on the other side, I watched Inside Out because obviously I wanted to rewatch it for the sequel. This is the movie about the 5 little emotions in your head. You know, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust as they control this young 12-year-old girl's mind. And, you know, it's a fun movie about them kind of discovering the importance of every emotion. You know, you think you want to be happy all the time, but maybe you shouldn't be happy. Or what happens if you're never happy? And I think it is a good exploration of that. It's a good, almost coming-of-age, growing-up story. But not for Riley, but for the emotions. And so, I did not like Inside Out when it first came out back in like 2016. But it's grown on me, that's for sure. And so yeah, this most recent watch, maybe that's a little commentary on me and how I've grown as a person. But I actually really liked it this isn't my second time, this rewatch. And then of course I went and saw Inside Out 2. This is the sequel where it's a year later. Riley is now 13. She's a teenager and puberty. And with puberty come all new emotions. Namely anxiety. There are other emotions, but anxiety is basically our antagonist of the film, I guess you could say. And we see Riley and the established emotions struggling with these new emotions of anxiety, embarrassment, ennui, and envy. And so I thought it was fun. I don't think it's as good as the first movie. I think the first movie is better, but it is like, if Inside Out 1 is like an 8 out of 10, then Inside Out 2 is like a 7 out of 10. Like, I think they are right there with each other. Where I will revisit Inside Out 2 when it comes to digital, which might actually be a while because this movie made $1 billion in a week. And so, you know, if a movie doesn't make money, we throw it on digital. And so you'll never see this movie on digital for a while because it's making money. And then finally, I don't know if you know this, but I love the Quiet Place movies. I love the first one a lot, and then I actually enjoy the second one probably more than most people do. I think it serves as a good middle chapter in the Quiet Place trilogy that they've set up. And so this year, we took a journey into A Quiet Place Day 1. This is obviously a prequel of the first day that the Quiet Place monsters arrived. And so with that, we follow Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn as 2 characters in New York City, of all places, during this event. And we see them just their struggle to survive and their journey through New York. And this movie, a lot of people thought it was going to be the big war against the Quiet Place monsters. And this will explain where they came from and why they're here. And it's not that. It really is just a story of Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn's characters and kind of their humanity, learning, you know, the need for kinship or the need to survive, you know, a want for love and family. Like, it's a very small, quiet, I didn't mean that, but a small, quiet movie that I really enjoyed. I went and saw it twice. I saw it with a friend yesterday, and then I saw it again today with a friend. And so I really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely grown on me. Check it out. It's in theaters now. Hopefully it stays there for a while, because like, I can see where you'd make the argument because it's a smaller movie than the first one that, you know, just go wait till it's on streaming. But I think part of the fun of these movies was experiencing them in a theater and everybody trying to, because the movie is quiet, you know, you don't want it ruined by someone being loud and noisy, which is what I was worried about. I didn't experience any issues, minus like my second showing that I went to today had a little bit, we had a little bit of some people like in the back like rustling wrappers, but nothing that you can't tune out if you're really focused on the movie. So yeah, go check out A Quiet Place Day 1 when you can. All right, so then moving on to TV that I watched this month. This June 2024 was the month of TV. Like, we all, if you don't know, if you don't keep up, literally I think every studio, every streaming service dropped something this month because I don't know why. Like, I guess it's because we don't have any movies this summer. Like, A Quiet Place was kind of it for now, all the way until Deadpool. Like, that's the only big blockbuster I can think of between now and Deadpool. Versus before, how we'd get movies back to back and there's no break. That's TV this month. So, first and foremost, we have, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've got my Mando shirt on right here. You've seen Star Wars stuff in the background. Of course, I'm talking about The Acolyte. This is a show set 100 years before The Phantom Menace, set during the High Republic, where the Jedi are investigating. There is someone who is killing Jedi. And so a group of Jedi are dispatched to go take care of this problem. And of course, it unravels more mysteries in the darkest corners of the galaxy. And so I do enjoy this show. I like it. I know it's been seeped in controversy. I made a whole video on it on this channel, actually, because I was sick of people. Like, you cannot like the show. I'm not saying, no, your opinions, but like the people who don't like it because it's woke and there's black people and all that, like, those opinions are invalid. Go watch that video for that whole conversation. But for The Acolyte itself, is the writing perfect? No. I don't think it destroys George Lucas's legacy, though, like others would say. It's a little awkward, and it's not finished. It's a mystery. We are halfway through the mystery right now. So how can you judge it or say it's bad when you really don't have the full picture? Like, next month, when the show is over, there's 3 episodes left. If it's done and over and they don't resolve what they've introduced and it's all like, oh, that doesn't make sense, then yes, I will come here and admit to you that it all fell apart by the end. But at least for now, I like what they've set up. I love the performances. Like, they have the actor from Squid Game, who I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but he plays Jedi Master Soul. And there were some people who were complaining about, like, his accent or the way he speaks because he's not an English native-speaking actor. But I think his performance is the best in the show. So I'm truly not sure where those people were coming from. But I like the acting from him. I like the action. I think the choreography is cool. And again, that's one where people are nitpicking it and picking it apart. And yes, if you dissect every scene frame by frame, you're going to notice we're like, oh, they're waiting to meet their marks, or they're stepping back because they know the swing. Like, yes, that happens in fake lightsaber fights. That stuff is in the prequels. That stuff's in the original trilogy. That stuff happens. Like, everybody complains about the fight scenes in this show, but I always reference back to the scene in Revenge of the Sith, which I love that movie, but like the one scene where Obi-Wan and Anakin are just sitting there twirling their sabers at each other. Yeah. So I think if you're holding out, there's 3 episodes left, so in 3 weeks you'll be able to watch the whole thing all the way through. I would definitely say go check out The Acolyte. I think it's better than some of the Star Wars stuff we've been getting lately. Like, that's where everybody says it's so terrible and it destroys Lucas's... And it's like, okay, well, I don't think George Lucas ever planned for Boba Fett to go be a kind sort of drug lord, but not really anti-drug king of Tatooine. Like, I don't... Star Wars is Star Wars. It can be whatever it needs to be, as long as we're all having fun. And then Doctor Who, Series 14, which I've covered. There is a review for every episode on this channel. And you should probably, if you don't... I'm not going to talk spoilers here, so I can't get too into it. But I enjoyed this season for the most part. I enjoyed a lot of the individual episodes of this season where we journeyed through time and space. This is, of course, if you don't know what Doctor Who is, this is about the Time Lord who's in the magic blue box called the TARDIS, who travels through space and time with a human companion. So, this one is the 15th Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa, accompanied by Ruby, played by Millie Gibson. And I really liked this season. It was short, only 8 episodes, way too short. It needed more. But the way Doctor Who has kind of always worked is each episode is its own individual story that might have threads that connect to a larger mystery that gets solved at the end of the season. And so for this season, I'd say I liked the individual stories, but the threads, the big storyline at the end for the finale did not work. It all fell apart. And so, overall, also, this is supposed to be a jumping on point for new viewers, and I could see where you could get into it, but I also don't know if it's the best place just out of quality. Like, if you've never seen Doctor Who before, me, I don't know. Like, it definitely explains everything to you, but I don't know if quality-wise it's the best place to jump on. But I talk more about that in those videos. Go check out those videos if you've seen the show or don't care about spoilers. My Adventures with Superman Season 2 started this month. And what a show, what a time. It is such a great time to be a Superman fan. We got the pictures of David Cornsweet as Superman, because now they're filming on actual sets out in public. And now we've got My Adventures with Superman. This is a new take on Superman, a little Elseworld story, if you will, where Superman is voiced by Jack Quaid, and it's a story of him still learning to be Superman. Like, it's set almost right after the second season, and so we pick up with all those characters where it's Superman and his fight against Argus / Amanda Waller, accompanied by Deathstroke, Wade Wilson. And this season also introduces new elements that we're not just fighting on Earth. We also, this is in the trailer on the poster, we're introduced to Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, as well as Brainiac, who was teased last season and has been in the marketing materials. And so it's kind of that, it's the balance of the space threat and the Earth threat. And so I really like what they're doing with Kara specifically. I like her story that we've seen so far, and I'm interested to see. There are 3 episodes left, so not a ton of time, but that's still the same as The Acolyte. That's 3 more episodes to see where this is all going to go and how this will all wrap up. So that is now streaming on Max. If you haven't, both seasons, the whole first season and then what has aired so far, season 2, are on Max. So definitely go check that one out. Okay, I'm going to do some rapid fire here because I put these in TV shows even though they're audio dramas, because I have been listening to a handful of 8th Doctor audio dramas because of my friends and I watching the movie last month and doing our reaction to it, which is now up on the channel. And so these are because that's all you can find for the 8th Doctor. So I've got Doctor Who, He Kills Me Not. This is a story about the Doctor encountering an Ood who is a serial killer, and how he manages to outwit him and overcome him. Also, these audio dramas range from like 30 minutes to 2 hours. Like, it just depends. Like, this one's about an hour, and it's also with the serial killer. The Doctor's also trying to keep this lesbian couple safe from this Ood who tries to kill them, and how he has to, if you don't know Doctor Who, the Ood are an alien species that are like peaceful. They cannot kill. So this Ood being a serial killer is like, no one believes him. And so it's him trying to prove to everyone that this Ood is a killer. Then there was Doctor Who Echoes of Extinction, and I didn't really like this one. This one, it's a little weird because it's like a 2-parter, and I fully admit I only watched part 1, which is the Paul McGann 8th Doctor storyline, and then part 2 is with David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. And so I only watched the first half. It's the Doctor comes across this like AI that has become sentient and wants to kill the world. And so in this first part, he's like trying to stop it from escaping the space station it's on. And I won't spoil it for you, but there's a part 2 for a reason. So yeah. And then I listened to Doctor Who Storm Warning. This is the start. This is like the official first 8th Doctor audio drama, because some of them are free on Spotify actually. Like this one, his first, because Big Finish does the audio dramas in series, in seasons, like the TV show. And so this is the first of like his first season. So the entire first season of the 8th Doctor Adventures is on Spotify for free. So Storm Warning finds the Doctor on a blimp in the 1940s, where he encounters a young woman named Charlie. And there is something strange going on this ship, but she can't quite figure out what it is. And there are Nazis who might be experimenting with something. There are Americans who might be experimenting with something. This blimp is basically just a big old time bomb in the sky waiting to go off. And so this is also the introduction of Charlie. I pointed her out when I first started because Charlie becomes the 8th Doctor's companion throughout these audio dramas. And essentially, honestly, it's kind of messed up, and it does make me want to continue on my journey with the 8th Doctor and Charlie, because what it introduces here is Charlie is meant to die on the blimp, but the Doctor takes her out of time and they go off on adventures. But he also remarks that eventually he is going to have to bring, because that's something I've noticed about the 8th Doctor too, is he is a by the book, we cannot disrupt the timeline. And so he is Charlie, I am going to eventually have to take you back so you can die on that blimp to fix the timeline. And so I haven't listened to the rest of them, but I would assume by the end of it he finds some way to not put Charlie on the blimp and kill her. But we'll have to see. Again, those are all on Spotify. The first season of it is, at least. So go check those out if you're at all interested in the 8th Doctor like I was. The Boys Season 4 started airing. This is, if you don't know what The Boys is by now, this is the 4th season, where this is the what if superheroes sucked. So we have Homelander, who is our Superman, who's an evil dictator. And we have Vought, which is the corrupt company that creates all the superheroes. They have the Seven, which is the Justice League, but they're all evil. And then we have the Boys, who are your down on their luck, normal people who have beef with these heroes and have made it their mission to take them, specifically Homelander, down. In this 4th season, we see a lot of growth with the characters. Again, I try to keep these vague and spoiler free, so I know I'm being I could just outright tell you what's happening, but I don't want to spoil, it might sound weird, but I don't want to spoil seasons 1 through 3 by talking about what's happening in season 4. So in this season 4, we see Homelander is at his peak madness, evilness, and the Boys are desperate. They've got a ticking time bomb. They've only got a few days, a few months left to stop Homelander before it's too late. And so a lot of people have been complaining that this season is too slow of a burn, but so far we are 5 out of 8 episodes in. Again, 3 episodes left. Wow, a lot of 3 episodes left. And so we have 3 episodes left. And so again, show's not over. I am curious where they'll leave it this season, but I don't think this season has been a slow burn as people have made it out to be. I think it's interesting. They're building slowly. They've introduced one of my favorite characters to the show, who I can say because it's not a spoiler, and that's Sage, or as Vought calls her sister, Sage. She doesn't like to be called that. She is your Lex Luthor, Ozymandias, as Eric Kripke, the show creator, has compared her to. Your Grand Admiral Thrawn. She is the smartest person in the room, you know. She can't physically box you out, but she's smart enough to... She doesn't even have to fight you, because she knows that you're going to go in to kill her, so she just leaves before you even get there, and you didn't even know she was gone, and stuff like that. So I do enjoy her a lot so far, and I'm curious to see how she influences the remaining 3 episodes of the season. Then, because I loved it so much, I watched X-Men 97 again. What's there to tell you that I haven't told you already? I made an entire tier list ranking the characters. This is the sequel to the animated series. It's perfect. Perfect X-Men. It's only 10 episodes. If you haven't watched it already, go watch it. There's nothing new that I can say that I haven't already told you before.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
And then House of the Dragon Season 2 just started. And this is the prequel to Game of Thrones, if you don't know. Following the Targaryen Civil War, where it is the Blacks and the Greens warring over the throne. The Blacks are led by Rhaenyra, who is the actual, heir to the throne, who has been usurped by the Greens. And so far this season, we're now 3 episodes in after yesterday. And so far, I would say it's been pretty uneventful. It's been a lot of build. People have been saying The Boys is the slow... I think this season of House of the Dragon is the slow burn. Only because, again, not spoiling anything, but there was an event that happened at the end of Season 1. A sort of cliffhanger where you were like, ooh, that's gonna start the fight. Because, it's been boiling. This Blacks versus Greens has been boiling through Season 1, and now here in Season 2, you're like, okay, after that, the war starts. And it hasn't. They're still talking about whether we're going to go to war. And then something happened in Episode 1, and you're like, okay, the war's going to start. And still in Episode 2, they're talking about, do we want to go to war? And then Episode 2 ends with something, and you're like, okay, they're going to go to war. And now Episode 3 has, again, they're talking, do we want to go to war? And I think finally, after what happened here now, at the end of Episode 3, they will finally go to war. I learned today that it's a shortened season. Last season was 10 episodes. This season is only 8. So we've got 5 episodes left. And I do think we're going to get some crazy dragon fighting, some wars in these final episodes. But so far, a lot of build-up. But I still enjoy the show. It's on Max. Go check it out. And then on the total opposite end of the spectrum, I watched part 2 of Chucky, Season 3. They split Season 3 of Chucky into 2 halves, and I never watched the second half when it came back from hiatus. But this is the show following the titular killer doll, and in this season he finds himself in the White House, trying to commit heinous acts in the White House, pretty much out of fun, silly. This show is silly. Chucky has always been silly, but I think Season 3 here was the silliest and maybe jumped the shark, especially in the back half. And it ends on a cliffhanger, which is a little disappointing because I don't... they're probably not getting picked up for Season 4 after the way this one ended. Plus, they've announced that a Chucky movie is coming. And so I think this was it. I think this was the, kind of sad whimper, the end of Chucky, the TV series. And so, yeah, Season 3 is a bit of a mess. It gets too camp. Like I said, Chucky has always been camp, but this season went way above and beyond with the White House shenanigans and the things Chucky does. And then after rewatching X-Men 97, I watched Wolverine and the X-Men. This is a show which is kind of inspired by the movies, hence Wolverine being the main character. But it's also a bit of almost a, what if, Elseworld, different take on the X-Men. Where this time it is Wolverine leading the X-Men. because an event, basically, they kind of establish in the show the X-Men were the usual status quo, and then something happened. And now the X-Men disbanded, and now it's Wolverine bringing them back together. And I like the show for what it does interesting. Like, at the beginning, they have an episode dedicated to, like, each main X-Men, where it's like, okay, Wolverine has to go get Storm. He's got to go get Cyclops. He's got to go get Emma Frost. He's got to go get Jean. Like, he goes and gets everyone. And I liked those episodes. Those were fun, like, highlights for those characters. But then the show just does every major X-Men storyline in... The show only has one season. It was canceled after season 1. So there's 26 episodes. And we do Days of Future Past, The Dark Phoenix, we do Apocalypse, we do Mr. Sinister, we do... What else do? We do the Hellfire Club. We do... Like, it's every major X-Men storyline you can think of. There is some kind of half-baked adaptation. Like, I don't think any of them are perfect one-to-one adaptations of those storylines. Not that they need to be, but, like, they feel so rushed. Because, like I said, 26 episodes. X-23, Weapon, X Flashbacks, Wolverine versus Hulk. Like, it's so much happens in this show for 26 episodes. And I guess maybe I'm just spoiled by where, after watching X-Men the Animated Series, where, like I said, they would do, like, 4 or 5 parters. Like, the Dark Phoenix storyline is like a 5-parter. So, you know, out of your 26 episodes, 5 of them are Dark Phoenix. Versus this one, it's like, okay, we gotta do Dark Phoenix in like 2 episodes, because then we gotta move on to Days of Future Past. It's like, slow down. Please. But overall, I did enjoy it. It was a fun little Elseworlds look at the X-Men. But it's not something I would probably revisit, like how I rewatched 97, and have a slight inkling to revisit some of the iconic storylines from the animated series. Then we had Season 2, Episode 9 of Hell of a Boss, Apology Tour. This is a show following imps in Hell as they run an assassination network and form relationship with different members of Hell. So this episode pretty much entirely focuses, without spoiling anything, I know it's hard to talk about one episode of a TV show without spoiling things, but this episode follows the relationship of Stolas and Blitz, and how they're trying to figure out what are their feelings for each other. And I liked it a lot. If you don't know, Hell of a Boss is a musical show, and I think the musical number, All to You, that they performed in this episode was maybe my favorite of the whole show. I would say give Hell of a Boss a look if you're at all interested. You've definitely got time now, because that show's independently produced, and so the next episode isn't until October, so you've got plenty of time. I checked out the first episode of Suicide Squad Isekai. If you don't know, Isekai is a genre in which a character gets sucked into an alternate world or alternate universe where they're not familiar with it. So, like, people joked about the Mario movie that came out, was that last year? 2 years ago? That was last year, right? Where the Mario movie is an isekai. Mario gets sucked into the Mushroom Kingdom. And so here the Suicide Squad find themselves sucked into an alternate universe that's like a fairy tale universe. I only watched the first episode. So far, 3 episodes have been released, and it'll be released weekly on Max from there. It also currently only has Japanese dialogue with English subtitles. So if you don't like to read subs, then you might have to wait for the dub that may or may never come. I'm not sure if I'll continue with this show or not. Like, it doesn't totally have me hooked, but I also acknowledge I only gave it 1 episode so far. And so I probably need to go back and check it out. But speaking of only 1 episode so far, I am 5 years late. but I finally watched the first episode of 2019's Watchmen. This is a sequel to the graphic novel, where it's the Elseworlds kind of storyline where major events have been changed thanks to the Watchmen, which are superheroes that were at one point on the government's payroll but now kind of aren't anymore, and it's a mess. It's a political drama with superheroes, to summarize it lightly. And so, again, only one episode in, but I'm hooked. I'm curious. The show has already set up a mystery that I want to solve. And so I'm going to continue watching that and hopefully have my answers for you on the whole show next month. Alright, and then we're getting into books that I read this month. So this month, because of The Acolyte, I did check out the entire Phase 1, Volume 1 of the High Republic Marvel Comics. So this follows a young Jedi, Padawan, and her master as they investigate an Outer Rim planet that has like this dark energy to it, you know, the dark side of the Force. And it's a fun little thing. They encounter the Hutts and other kind of alien creatures. The High Republic is the earliest we've seen on the timeline, besides the Old Republic, which it's still wishy-washy depending on who you talk to, whether the Old Republic is canon or not. It was interesting, and I am interested to check out. They did the High Republic in like different phases, because they say the High Republic covered like a span of 300 years. And so they did it in phases, and so I'm trying to read at least Phase 1, check it out. I need to get back into it and read the rest of Phase 1 to really get the full picture. Then for Nanda V Movies Book Club, I read the story Reckless. This is a comic about a man who, he's got a mysterious past that I don't want to spoil, but he helps people out. He does favors for money, not the favors you'd want. Not sexual favors, but, like he's almost a hitman. He helps people, eliminate their abusive husbands and things like that. And so it's an interesting mystery where a woman from his past comes to him for help. And she sets him off on then this big old deep dark tale of revenge. And I thought it was a fun little story. There's a bunch of them. Like, they're all anthologies to my knowledge. No, I actually don't think they are anthologies. I think they are like semi-sequel. Almost think of it like the Knives Out series, where they all follow Benoit Blanc. They all follow this one guy, but they're different stories that have nothing to do with each other. Then I started reading Light of the Jedi. This is the very first book they released for the High Republic, and this follows the Republic and the Jedi, where an accident happens in hyperspace. If you don't know, in Star Wars, hyperspace lanes are like how you travel safely through hyperspace, because if you just flew willy-nilly, you'd crash into a planet and explode. And so this follows where inside a hyperspace lane, a ship explodes, and it becomes debris, meteoroids and things like that, flying down the lanes at hyperspeed. And it's shooting out the sides of the lane, and it's going to crash into these planets. And so it's about the Jedi trying to figure out how they can save as many lives as possible, and how they can avoid this being too big of a problem. Like, don't want to let the public know it just yet, but like we also have to warn people to evacuate. It's an interesting book so far that I'm not too terribly far into, but I need to continue reading. Then this month, Ultimate Spider-Man number 6 released. This one is again the Elseworlds storyline, where Peter finds himself Spider-Man at like 30 years old. Like, it's an adult Peter Parker who becomes Spider-Man. He has 2 children and is married to Mary Jane, and has teamed up with Harry Osborn, who is the Green Goblin. In this one, we see Harry and Peter. Finally, the conflict has been building the last few issues, and we finally see them go after Kingpin, Wilson Fisk. And I won't spoil how that goes for them, but I'm sure you can imagine how that goes. So, I think I do really like this. I think this Spider-Man story feels like it was written for me. Where we do end up seeing, like, I say it every month when I talk to you guys about this comic, that I want heroes to grow. Like, Batman has Damian now and has grown. He's not the moody Batman from 2005 anymore. You know, Superman now has his son, John Kent, and is married to Lois. Things like that. I want the heroes to grow. And so I am glad. This is my favorite Spider-Man comic, probably ever. So, just bouncing off that, I also read Spectacular Spider-Man #4. This is the team-up series with Peter and Miles, where in this 4th issue, they find themselves in a virtual world trapped by the villains of this comic. And in this virtual world, they encountered their ideal, realities. But then, things might not be as they seem, and they might become aware of what's going on. And so, this comic, I think, is a bit slower of a burn, / maybe almost a little jumbled. Like, it's not always told in chronological order. Like, it sometimes jumps back and forth, so I think that can also make it a little confusing. I'm curious to see how it all unfolds when we get the full picture, because this is a limited series, so there's only so many more left. So we'll see where that unfolds. Following up on that, and because I loved X-Men 97, I read the prequel comic, Great Expectations. Is this essential for watching the show? No. But it's a fun look at, it's set on the day that Jean discovers she's pregnant, and Sinister also learns that news. And so it's, of course, the X-Men having to protect Jean from Sinister and things like that. And so I thought it was a fun, quick, it's only 4 issues, so like 100 pages or so. Like, it's a quick read. I liked it. I thought it was fun. Nothing essential, but it's basically another episode of X-Men 97, so can you complain? And then continuing with the spin-off comics, My Adventures with Superman also just started their spin-off comic that is set between seasons 1 and 2. Here, at least, and again, this is only issue 1, so not a ton to go off of. But we see Superman go off of a mysterious android that the comic hasn't answered yet, but I'm pretty sure is supposed to be Amazo. The android who can mimic any superhuman abilities that it encounters. So I'm interested to see where that unfolds. Finally, a comic I loved a ton last year and made a whole video on it, has a sequel series. 2 sequels now. I loved Scarlet Witch, The Last Door from last year, and so they had a sequel series, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. This, of course, for the 60th anniversary of the characters. This obviously follows Pietro and Wanda as they find themselves almost pitted against each other because there is an enemy, an unseen enemy that doesn't quite get resolved yet. But this unseen enemy causes them to get into a fight and then takes them on one-on-one. The one issue. It's only 4 issues. It's short, like the X-Men 97 one. And in these 4 issues, there's the main issue where they split up. Then it's, an issue of this enemy trying to take... I keep saying this. I'm not trying to be vague. We don't know who this enemy is yet. Like, it is an unknown entity that's left unanswered in the series. And so, they break up. It attacks Wanda. It attacks Quicksilver. And then they team back up together to take it down. Well, take it down. And, delay the inevitable. I thought it was a fun little, almost, like, I wouldn't say it's an official sequel to The Last Door. I would say it's like an in-between, like a prelude. Like, it sets up the next story. Because, like, right here I have in my hand, I haven't read it yet, but the Scarlet Witch run is back. It's the same artist, it's the same writers. I'm excited to pick it up, and this picks up right after Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. And so I am excited to let you know how this story unfolds over the next year. And then finally, I know this video has been very long, but we have the video games that I played this month. Overwatch 2 started its new season, where they introduced things like they brought back Pink Mercy, which is the breast cancer awareness skin, where you pay for the skin with real money, and that money goes to Breast Cancer Research Foundations. Overall, this season, they also introduced, the theme is like knockoff Power Rangers, like it's called Ultra Watch, and I think it leaves a bit to be desired. I don't think it's as fun or crazy. It's usual Overwatch, the 6v6 hero shooter that you all know and love. Everybody has their own special abilities. I keep saying 6v6. I'm going to always say 6v6. Overwatch 1 was 6v6. Overwatch 2 is now 5v5. They kicked someone off your team. Now it's 1 tank, 2 attack, 2 supports. And so, yeah, I think Overwatch 2 this season is alright so far. Nothing too crazy. None of the big content has released yet. And then, of course, there's Fortnite, which is still the current season with the cars that I talked about last season. You know, Chapter 5, Season 3. And the cars have really grown on me. This season, I almost want to say, this might sound bad, but I feel like I've gotten the most victory royales I ever have this season, because the cars are so much fun. The Nitro Fist are the best weapon in the game, even though they're incredibly overpowered. They've also introduced all the Metallica content. The X-Men with Magneto arrive tomorrow, and so at the time of filming this. And so yeah, a real fun season of Fortnite. This is of course the 1v99, Battle Royale. You're all in your Hunger Games dome. Fight as the storm closes in, forcing you closer together. And then speaking of which, I also checked out Star Wars Hunters. This is a 4v4 hero shooter. I'm struggling to call it that. It's a mobile game. It's a mobile game that's available on mobile or on Switch. I can't see myself ever playing this. It's simple. It's, Overwatch clone, so to say. 4v4, you've got different Star Wars characters who have different abilities, and you're trying to capture the flag, get the most kills, escort this to this side of the map, things like that. And so it's fun for like 30 minutes, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to play this all day. And so I could see myself, though, I say that, I could see myself where if you were in line for something, like let's say at Comic-Con, where you might be stuck in line for hours, like waiting in line to meet Hayden Christensen, you might wait 3 hours in line. Yeah, I could see myself being entertained playing it on my phone during that time. But, like, sitting here right now, am I dying to shut the camera off and go jump on Star Wars Hunters? No. And then I probably shouldn't even admit this, but my friends and I got so bored of playing the same games every month together that we actually played a game or two of League of Legends. I have never tried it out before. This is, like, the top-down strategy game where you each control your own hero and you're trying to invade the enemy base and blow up their base. And it's super slow paced. Like, matches can take hours, plural. And so, yeah, my friends and I played it for one night where, like I said, we played 1 or 2 games, and I think that's enough League of Legends for me. I don't think the game is for me. My other friend and I tried out One Armed Cook. This is a free game. All of these games are free. The One Armed games. So, with One Armed Cook, as the name implies, you have one arm. You only have one hand to grab things. And so you and a friend have to work together to put things together. And, it's simple. Like, you can literally just play it with your mouse. And, you gotta move around. I guess you need your keyboard to move around, but it's literally just your mouse click. It's like the only button you need. And you pick things up, you put them down to make people's food orders. And it is fun, but it also gets chaotic and crazy. Like, there are some levels, like the pizza. I think the Pizza Hut, the pizza shop is only like marked as medium. The pizza one is hard. Like, there are people ordering these crazy elaborate pizzas, and you can only cook it so fast because you only have one pizza oven. And it's just like any other cooking simulator where the customer has a timer, and if the timer runs out, they leave, and you lose points. And so, yeah, I think it's a fun little thing to check out with some friends. Again, it's free, so why not? And then lastly, my friends and I attempted to play the Deadpool game, but it wouldn't work because it's been delisted from all digital storefronts. The only way you can play it now is if you have a physical copy of the game. And so we did attempt to emulate it, and it did not work. So instead we played the X-Men arcade game. And so that turned out to actually be a fun little video we made of ourselves playing it. That's on the channel now. Go check that out. And there's something, like I say in that video, you're really only pressing like 2 buttons that whole game. But it's so fun. Like, it is mindless and enjoyable. And especially, I can see where in an actual arcade, I probably wouldn't have had as much fun. Because, you have to pay money when you die. Versus here, you just press the start button on your controller to put another imaginary coin into the machine and play again if you die. And so, my friend Morgan and I played, and Phil watched. He didn't want to join this time. But we had quite a fun time playing through that entire game. And that entire playthrough is on this channel. So go check it out. So yeah, that was what I watched, read, and played in June 2024. Quite a busy month, as you can see. Let me know what you got up to this month. If you watched anything I watched, what you thought of it, what did you play, what you read, anything fun like that, let me know. If you liked what you saw here, I talk about nerdy stuff all the time, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when the next one's coming. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.